What does it really mean to be popular? If you aren't, it's probably something you've wondered about. Maybe you imagined how thrilling it would be to be liked or admired by everyone. What a perfect life, huh? Wrong. It's exhausting. Before I continue my wild story, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell if you don't want to miss out on any other great stories like mine. Hi, my name is Carmen, and for a very long time, I knew what it was like to be important and well-known. I came from a very wealthy family. I was 16 years old, and I had one older brother. His name was Jacob, and we looked nothing alike. Because he had already moved to college, I was the only child left at home. I think this was why my parents let me do anything I wanted. I was their precious little girl. I was best known for hosting the most extravagant parties. Everyone knew about me. At school, everyone wanted to be invited to my house on the weekend. At first, my parties were just ordinary, but after a while, I decided to have themed parties to make them more exciting. My parents let me have at least $1,000 to buy whatever I needed. Drinks, decorations, entertainment, anything. It was great being rich. I had a whole Instagram account with thousands of followers just for my parties, and even people who weren't from my school would come. Apart from my very active social life, I had some pretty amazing friends. My best friend was Mia. She lived across the street in another mansion, and she always helped me plan my parties. I forgot to mention that I had the world's perfect boyfriend. Chris was tall, handsome, and a quarterback on the football team. Your typical hunk. I guess you could say he was like the male version of me because he was just as popular and rich. He always got me the best gifts and treated me like a total princess. Anyway, everything was fine until it wasn't. My life began to spin out of control and there was nothing I could do to stop it. It started while I was having lunch with Mia and some of my other friends at school.
Do you know that Camilla is having a huge party next Saturday? She says it's for her birthday, but that's the same day of your Hawaiian pool party,
said Melanie.
Oh, I didn't know. Well, maybe you can just push the party back a bit. It's no big deal.
Mia. Of course that would have been the reasonable thing to do, but I was angry. So angry. Camilla had been my biggest rival since kindergarten. Although I was more popular, she was always trying to compete with me. She copied my clothes, shoes, bags, and now she was trying to steal my parties. Jealous trash. No, I'm going to make mine bigger and even better than Camilla's. I don't care if it's her birthday, I replied while my friends just stared in silence. I got to work that night and started advertising my Hawaiian pool party. I asked my parents for $2,000 extra and told everyone that 2 lucky people would win the latest iPhone. I did everything I could to ensure that people came to my party instead of Camilla's. When Saturday finally came, I was beyond myself with excitement. The decorators came early and made my pool area look just like a beach. I had palm trees, beach balls, real sand, everything. We even added salt to the pool to make it taste like seawater. My party was supposed to start at 3 o'clock, and by 2:30, people were already arriving. When there was at least 100 people there, I said to Mia, "Hey, let's take a short drive to Camilla's house to see if anyone went to her party."
Okay.
Mia sighed while rolling her eyes. We drove over there, and only 3 cars were parked in the driveway. What a flop! I laughed. We went back to my party and continued enjoying ourselves, but around 6 o'clock, I noticed that many people were leaving. What's going on? Where's everyone going? I asked.
Well, look, Camilla went live on Instagram and, well, see for yourself,
Melanie said. I grabbed her phone and looked. Then I was shocked. 2 of the biggest pop stars were at her house. I'd never had any celebrities at my house before. I turned red in the face with anger and jealousy. A few minutes later, everyone but Mia had left my house. Even my boyfriend left.
I'm really sorry, Carmen, but I need his autograph. I'm going to Camilla's party,
Mia finally said and walked away. I couldn't believe that everyone had betrayed me. I hated everyone. The next week at school was horrible. Now Camilla seemed to be more popular than I was, and she even offered for people to hang out with the pop stars the next weekend. Everyone wanted to be her friend. A few weeks passed, and although I was still a bit popular, I began to fade into the background. Only about 20 people came to my parties because Camilla always had someone famous at her house. I don't know how and where Camilla was meeting all these celebrities, but there was a different one at her house almost every week. She started thinking she was more important than me too. Every time she passed me in the hallway, she'd just give me an evil smirk. I just rolled my eyes at her. I began spending a lot of time at home by myself. I taught myself a few new hobbies and began to read more books. I thought that there was no way my life could get worse than this, but I couldn't have been more wrong. One evening, as I just began watching an episode of my favorite show, my parents walked into the living room looking extremely sad, like someone had died. "What's wrong? Have you run out of money or something?" I asked.
No. Can you turn off the television for a while?
I turned it off and they sat next to me.
We have a confession to make, and we hope you won't become too angry at us.
"A confession? What is it?" I asked.
Well, have you ever wondered why you and your brother look nothing alike?
"No, not really."
Well, we adopted you when you were 2 years old, and apparently something was wrong with our paperwork because we were just contacted by the authorities. Your biological parents want you back.
Is this some kind of joke? I was bewildered.
I'm sorry, darling. No, it's not. I know that this is a lot to digest at this time, and we've asked them to give you a little more time. You'll be going to stay with them next week. We are so sorry. Please never forget that we love you like you're our own daughter, and we'll never see you differently, even when you're living away from us.
Where do they live?
Not too far from here. You'll still be able to go to the same school, so your entire life won't change.
Can't you all fight against this? I don't want to go live with some strangers. They said nothing and continued to look devastated. I cried myself to sleep that night. The next day, I couldn't go to school because I was crying all day too. This was the most horrible news I had ever received in my life. But it got worse. The next week, I packed my things and got ready for my parents to drive me to my biological parents' house. We left our beautiful community with its rich people, mansions, and swimming pools and entered a very poor, sad-looking neighborhood. It looked like there were many homeless people on every corner. Stray animals walked around looking like they hadn't eaten in days. Not many people looked happy.
We're here.
I stared out of the window of my dad's Ferrari and nearly burst into tears again. "You can't leave me here," I wailed.
We have no choice, honey. We're so sorry.
My dad said, looking like he was ready to cry too. The house was practically falling apart. 2 windows were missing upstairs and the walls were filthy. I imagined that it couldn't be better inside. We walked to the door and knocked. A man and woman opened it together.
Carmen, our lovely daughter. We are so happy to see you after all of these years.
They invited us all in and we sat in the living room where there was one old soiled couch and an old-fashioned television which was turned off. They offered us some snacks, but I refused to touch anything in that filthy place. I think that the mom and dad I grew up with were very angry that my biological parents wanted me back, but for my sake, they chose to remain calm. After they left, my new mom and dad, Janet and George, showed me upstairs to my room. It was smaller than the laundry room at my old house. I had a tiny old bed, a small desk, and a wardrobe. Janet decided to stay in my room for a while to talk to me.
I'm sure you're a bit upset and you're wondering why we put you up for adoption. We are so sorry, and we really didn't mean it. It's just that you were our firstborn and we had no money at all. We always intended to take you back after we became a bit more comfortable. We both have jobs now, and we don't make much, but it's enough. We're in a better position now.
It really doesn't look so, I sighed while rolling my eyes.
Well, I'll let you get settled and then you can come to meet your brothers and sisters.
I didn't even know I had brothers and sisters. How did they all live together in this dump? Later, I met my 2 little brothers, Jake and Harold, and my 2 little sisters, Haley and Savannah. I wondered why my parents kept having children if they were so poor, and why on earth they decided to drag me into this mess. Luckily, I still had my laptop, my phone, and all my other gadgets. As I sat on my bed that night, I realized that I'd have to go to school the next day. What would my friends think if they found out I lived here now? I'd have to lie about everything. The next day, I had to take the school bus because Janet and George didn't own a car. I walked far away from the house and took the bus when it passed. When I got to school, my boyfriend Chris saw me walking in.
Hey, how come you took the bus this morning?
He laughed. Well, I'm trying out this new experiment to find out how other people live. It's wild. All those people in one bus? My lie was good enough for him. As we walked down the hallway, a few people stopped me to ask when the next party was. I had to continue lying. I told them that my parents were away for a few weeks and that I wasn't allowed to have anyone over until they got back. They accepted this and moved on. But it kept getting worse and I continued having to create lies.
Hey, can I come over later so we can work on our history project together?
Mia asked. I began to freak out internally because I remembered she lived across the street from where I used to live and she'd eventually notice that I just wasn't there. I can't tonight, sorry. I've got a hot date with Chris. She shrugged and started talking about something else. I began to hate my life. I was used to being rich and popular, and part of me felt like this was all a terrible dream. After school, I pretended like I had to leave early. I hid in a small storage room until I was sure that everyone had left, and then I walked to the bus stop and took a bus home. I continued this routine for a while, and I started to get used to my new life. I stopped being so judgmental of my biological parents and even became friendlier to my brothers and sisters. In fact, I started to like my little sisters a lot. They looked up to me because they thought I was so interesting and beautiful. I still called my other parents from time to time, and I missed them to shreds, but life had to go on. I finally began to feel at peace until the most dreadful morning I ever had at school.
Carmen, Camilla uploaded this long video about how you're a fraud. I don't even know whether to believe it. It's awful.
Mia said as I got off the school bus. She shoved her phone into my hands and I watched the video. It showed me walking away from school and getting on the bus. Then it showed where I got off and zoomed in onto my house. My house, which was falling apart. Camilla said,
Carmen pretends to be rich and amazing, but the truth is that she's poor. She was adopted by these rich people for a while, but now she's gone back to live with her real parents. This is why there are no parties. She's been lying to all of her friends too.
I couldn't believe that Camilla would follow me home and record me just to become more popular. How did she even know all of this? I started crying. It's all true, Mia. I've been living there for months. I hate it. She looked at me seriously, then walked away. I couldn't believe that my best friend in the whole world ignored me while my life had fallen apart. That night, I got home and nothing could have prepared me for what I would see next. My original mom and dad were sitting in Janet and George's kitchen.
You see, I told you this experiment would have been too much. She looks devastated.
What experiment?
Your mom and I decided that your life was too easy. You wasted a lot of money and you didn't seem grateful for all the wonderful things you had. So we hired these actors to pretend to be your biological parents. You can come home with us tonight, though.
I hate you guys. This was torture. This is the worst thing that ever happened to me.
Well, didn't you learn a valuable lesson?
I couldn't believe it. While the lesson was useful, I thought it was a bit excessive. I was extremely grateful that I was no longer poor, though, and when it was time to leave, I literally hugged my dad's car seats all the way home. I changed a lot. Instead of spending money on parties, I saved money and used it to help to take care of Janet and George's children. I was still grateful for all they had done for me, and I wanted the best for their kids. I still call them my little brothers and sisters. I remember that being popular doesn't really mean that I have true friends, so I am working on becoming a better person, and I hope that I will be able to attract the right crowd when I do.
My heart was beating madly as I raced through the park. I had to get away from him, but I could hear his footsteps. He was right behind me. Then I noticed the public bathroom. I ran inside and stood there, gasping for breath. As my breathing began to come back to normal, I looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I watched in terror as my beautiful face turned into something out of a horror movie. And if you think that's shocking, you'll never believe what happens at the end of this video. I hadn't had a very easy childhood, you see. To say that I was ugly was a huge understatement. Even though my parents tried to reassure me that it was what was inside that mattered, I couldn't help wishing that I hadn't been born so ugly. It was difficult for me, especially at school. The other kids would always laugh at me and call me names.
Hey, what's it like having the face of an ogre?
I learned to ignore their words, but it still hurt. The only thing that saved me was that I was really smart. At least I had that, I suppose. Imagine if I'd been ugly and dumb. Now that would have been really awful. But luckily, I'd been born with some brains, and I used them to the best of my ability. I loved entering competitions because I knew that I was sure to win. And when the kids at school saw me collecting trophy after trophy, they had to congratulate me. I remember once there was this huge science fair in our town. Everyone at school was talking about it because the first prize was $1,000.
I really could do with that money. I'm definitely going to enter. Me too. I already know what I'm going to spend the winnings on.
I laughed to myself when I heard them talking because I knew that they had no chance of winning. I'd already entered and I knew that whatever invention they came up with, there was no way it would be better than mine. And I was right. You should have seen their faces when they announced the winner.
And the first prize goes to Jessica.
As I walked to collect my trophy and prize money, a huge grin spread across my face. I looked over at all of my competitors. The disappointed look on their faces made up for all of the horrible teasing. That'll teach them to call me ugly. When I got home after the science fair, I went to show my parents the winnings. Look, Mom, Dad, I won.
That's fantastic, Jessica. Well done.
You two look a bit serious. What's going on?
You'd better sit down. We have something to tell you.
I sat down.
Your father has been offered a job in another country. We're going to be moving at the end of the month.
What? No, I don't want to move.
I'm sorry, Jessica, but we have to. This is an incredible job for your father. There is no way he can turn it down.
I felt really sad at the thought of moving. I mean, I know that the kids at school were mean to me, but at least they already knew me. Now, I was going to have to get to know a whole new bunch of kids. What if they're even meaner to me? The more I thought about moving, the more I realized that I had a great opportunity. I had the opportunity to become someone new. I could build a whole new reputation for myself. I began to come up with a plan. I just need to come up with some kind of invention. Something that will change the way that I look. I spent the next few days working on my plan. Eventually, after about 5 days, I had a breakthrough. Yes! I've got it! I'm gonna make myself a face mask, and not just any ordinary face mask. This one will convince everyone that I'm beautiful. I set to work on making my mask, and after a week, it was ready. I felt really nervous as I sat in the front of my bedroom mirror about to try it on for the first time. What if it doesn't work? What if people can see that it's a mask? But I needn't have worried. As I lifted it to my face, I suddenly became a different person. I gasped out loud when I saw my reflection. Oh my god, I'm beautiful. The mask was perfect. As soon as I put it on, it displayed another person's face. Someone beautiful. I was so proud of my new inventions. But the only problem was that it only lasted for 18 hours. I had to charge it for 6 hours through the night, and then it would last until midnight. It wasn't really that much of a problem though. All I had to do was make sure that I was home before midnight and nobody would ever know that I was wearing a mask. When I showed the mask to my parents, they were a bit hesitant.
Are you sure you want to do this, Jessica?
Yes, definitely. This is my chance to be normal. Now that I will be going to a new school, I can start all over. No one will ever know that I'm ugly.
Well, okay then. But you know that we think you are beautiful, don't you?
Thank you, Mom, but I really want to do this. The first day at my new school was terrifying. Even though I had my mask on, I still felt really nervous. What if no one likes me? What if I don't make any friends? But I didn't need to worry. Everyone was super friendly.
Hey, you're new here, aren't you? I'm Sophie.
Hi, yeah, it's my first day. I'm Jessica.
Come and sit with us.
As I sat there chatting away to Sophie and her friends, I couldn't help but feel excited. It was so nice to feel normal, to not be constantly teased and criticized because of my appearance. And I tell you another thing that came as a shock. I suddenly started getting lots of attention from boys. I couldn't even remember how many of them asked me out. It seemed like almost every boy in the school wanted to date me. I didn't say yes to any of them though. I had my eyes on someone else. I had seen him the first day at school but had never spoken to him. I knew that his name was Jake and that he was single because I had asked Sophie about him. He's so cute. I wish that he would ask me out. I would definitely say yes to him.
Well, you never know. You might get to know him at the prom on Saturday night.
That would be amazing. As I got myself ready for the prom, I couldn't help but get excited at the thought of getting to know Jake. I bet he's really interesting and funny too. I noticed him as soon as I walked through the door. He was standing at the other side of the room talking to a few other boys. I walked over to where Sophie and my other friends were standing. As I passed by Jake, he looked up and gave me a smile. My heart literally skipped a beat and my stomach turned over. I blushed from head to toe.
Oh my god. Jessica, did you see that? I think he definitely likes you.
I can't believe I went bright red. I bet he thinks I'm a complete idiot.
Don't be silly. You look amazing.
Do you think so?
Of course. You're beautiful.
That's when I remembered I was wearing the mask. It was weird because even though I had a beautiful face, something inside me still felt like I was ugly. I guess it will take some time for me to get used to people thinking I'm pretty.
Jessica, he's coming over.
Oh my god, is he? What should I say?
I don't know. Just be casual.
Hi there. It's Jessica, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm Jake. Do you want a drink or anything?
Oh, yeah, please, a Coke, please.
Why don't you go sit down over there and I'll bring you a Coke?
Sure. Jake turned away and I smiled at Sophie. Wish me luck.
Good luck. But you don't need it.
I spent the rest of the evening chatting to Jake. It was like we had known each other forever. And I was right. He was smart and funny and had so many interesting stories. I really felt like I could talk to him for hours without running out of things to say.
We should do this again sometime. Maybe catch a movie or go out for pizza or something.
That would be great, yeah. I'd love to.
I've had so much fun talking to you, Jessica. I can't believe what the time is.
What time is it?
It's almost midnight.
As soon as I heard that, my heart sank. I'm sorry, Jake. I just remembered, I have to go.
Wait, let me walk you home.
No. I'm fine. Panic started rising up inside me. I knew that I had to get out of there fast before anyone saw my mask change. I ran out of the building. I had no time to call for an Uber, and instead I decided to run all the way home. As I started running, I could hear Jake calling behind me.
Jessica, wait! I'll come with you.
I ran as fast as I could. When I got to the park, I decided that I would take the shortcut through it. My heart was beating madly as I raced through the park. I had to get away from him. But I could hear his footsteps. He was right behind me. Then I noticed the public bathroom. I ran inside and stood there, gasping for breath. As my breathing began to come back to normal, I looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I watched in terror as my beautiful face turned into something out of a horror movie. Tears began to roll down my cheeks as I looked at my ugly face. What am I going to do? I have to get home without Jake seeing me. I waited and waited until eventually I thought that the coast would be clear. I'm sure he would have gone home by now. I peeped out of the bathroom door and I looked all around. I couldn't see Jake anywhere. Oh, thank goodness, he must have gone. I snuck out and began to make my way through the park, making sure to keep my head down. But all of a sudden, I heard a voice behind me.
Jessica?
I had no choice but to turn around and let him see my face.
Who are you? And why are you wearing Jessica's dress?
I could see the look of confusion as he looked down at my dress and then at my face. He doesn't recognize me. Maybe I still have a chance to get away with this. I turned and I started running again, but it was no use. He was faster than me and soon caught up with me. I felt him grab my arm and turn me around.
What's going on? What have you done with Jessica?
I knew that I had no choice. I had to tell him the truth. I'm Jessica. The real Jessica. I could tell by the shocked look on his face that he had recognized my voice.
But how? I mean, why?
I wear a face mask because I'm so ugly.
Jessica, you aren't ugly. You are a beautiful person. I've never had so much fun with anyone in all of my life.
But you wouldn't have asked me to go out with you if you had known how ugly I was. I started crying again.
You're wrong, Jessica. I like you for who you are, not what you look like.
But people will call me names, like they did at my old school.
I don't care what people call you. If they say bad things about you, just ignore them. You should be happy with who you are, not pretend to be someone else.
Do you really mean that?
Of course I do. So, are you going to let me walk you home now?
Yes. Okay then. I couldn't believe that Jake still wanted to spend time with me. Maybe he is right. Maybe I should just try to be happy with who I am. When we reached my house, Jake took hold of my hand.
Good night, Jessica. I've had an amazing time with you, and don't forget you promised to go out on a date with me. I'm not going to let you change your mind.
Okay, I won't.
See you at school on Monday.
Bye. I went inside. My mom was standing waiting for me.
Jessica, your mask.
I know, Mom, but I don't care. I've decided I'm not gonna wear the mask anymore.
That's fantastic news, Jessica. What made you change your mind?
It's not a what, it's a who. I told my mom all about Jake and what had happened in the park.
He sounds like a very sensible boy. And very kind, too.
Yeah, I think he's pretty special. He's asked me out on a date.
I think that's wonderful, Jessica.
I think it's pretty wonderful too.
Just like most college students, I struggled the first year as I tried to balance schoolwork and football. In high school, being the best athlete at school came naturally to me, but in college, I needed to prove myself to everyone. I worked my butt off, and in my second year, Coach named me the team captain. Some guys like Nick, who were 1 year older than I was, didn't like the idea that someone younger than them was the team captain. They thought they deserved the spot because they were there longer. Needless to say, he made my life a living hell for the first month until Coach said he would forfeit every game this season if we didn't work together. Oh, and one small detail I forgot to mention, I started dating Nick's ex, Melissa, who was a cheerleader. Before I continue, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and tap that notification bell. In my defense, I didn't know that she was his ex until about 2 weeks after we started dating. As soon as I found out, I ended the relationship. I told her that Nick and I already didn't get along and dating her would make things harder for the team. I wanted to play professional football and I wasn't about to let anyone, not even a pretty girl, get in the way of that. Melissa wasn't too happy about that and we never really spoke again after that. Months passed by and Nick and I buried the hatchet. It felt good not having to look over my shoulder. One evening after we won a game, the team and I went by Kellyanne, one of the cheerleaders' homes, for a celebration party. While dancing, someone tapped me on my shoulder. I spun around to see Nick.
Sorry to cramp your style, but I need a huge favor. My car won't start and the other guys are too buzzed to drop me off. Can I get a lift to college? I forgot my gym locker.
Sure, man, no problem. I turned to Lena, the pretty girl I was dancing with. Save a dance for me when I return? She smiled and nodded. Nick laughed as he locked my neck playfully and tousled my hair.
Come on, lover boy.
Nick and I left the party, and a few minutes later, we arrived at the college campus.
I'll get a ride back with someone.
I nodded and drove off. I woke up the next afternoon with numerous missed calls and text messages from other guys on the team asking if I knew where Nick was. Nobody saw him after he jumped into my car. I told them that I dropped Nick off on campus and went back to the party. I tried calling Nick, but his phone went straight to voicemail. My stomach churned and I felt sick. I rolled out of bed slowly and went in search of my parents. I found them in the kitchen having coffee.
Finally out of bed. I guess that was some party.
Mom smiled at me. Her smile was quickly removed when she saw my face and her expression turned to one of grave concern.
Kai, is everything okay?
I sat with my parents and told them everything. And now Nick isn't answering his phone. The last thing I remember was returning to Kellyanne's party.
Don't worry, he's probably at some girl's house sleeping off whatever he had at the party. Everything will be okay.
Dad squeezed my shoulder comfortingly. But boy, was Dad wrong. Monday afternoon, when my teammates and I entered the locker room before practice, we noticed that something smelled weird.
What is that smell?
Denny asked as his face turned up in disgust. We followed the smell to Nick's locker. We looked as fear and nervousness appeared in each person's eyes. Coach Dellison opened the locker and Nick's body fell out. A gasp echoed throughout the locker room. Coach Dellison immediately called the police. I guess news traveled fast about Nick because before I knew what was happening, Melissa was crying her eyes out over him. She stood up angrily and charged at me. Her finger tapped my chest with every word she spewed.
I thought you were joking, Kai. How could you?
What are you talking about? I backed away.
The night of the party, you told me you should have ended Nick when you had the chance.
What? Bella pulled her phone from the pocket of her cheerleading uniform and played a video of me saying, I should have ended Nick when I had the chance. Police sirens wailed outside. Parents were called, and soon every member of the team was questioned about their whereabouts on the night of the party. Coach suspended me from the team, and the police told us not to leave the country. By the next day, photos of me were plastered in every newspaper, printed and online. Star athlete, main suspect in murder. With all the bad publicity, my chances of playing professional football were flushed down the toilet. My parents insisted that I stay home until investigations were completed. My parents and I were trapped in our house since reporters were camped outside. The next day, there was a knock on the kitchen door.
Don't open it.
Mom shouted.
I'm sick and tired of those reporters.
We tried to ignore the knocking, but it persisted. Eventually, Dad yanked open the door with a baseball bat in hand, ready to charge at the person on the other side.
It's me.
The woman whispered. Mom and Dad and I shared looks. There were two people, a man and a woman, standing by the door, both of whom we had never seen before. Luggage at their feet as they tried to push the reporters back.
Are you going to let your only daughter in or not?
Mom yanked both people inside and slammed the door. She hugged the woman.
Tammy, you're home.
Tammy was my older sister who studied at a makeup effects school where she learned how to do prosthetic facial masks. As soon as Mom released Tammy, she and her boyfriend, Lucas, removed the prosthetics from their faces.
We knew that the reporters would have recognized us, so I made us some disguises.
Tammy sighed. She walked over to me and squeezed my hand.
How are you holding up?
I guess as good as I can under the circumstances. I rubbed the back of my neck.
Don't worry. Lucas and I are here to help. We will get through this.
She hugged me tightly.
Let's go up to your room. We have a plan.
Once upstairs, Tammy told me that she created foam latex prosthetic masks for all of us to go undercover. How are we going to leave the house? I asked.
Simple.
She smiled slyly.
We'll use the basement window. It's hidden from sight behind the bushes.
I raised an eyebrow and Tammy laughed.
You really think I was stuck in my room all those years studying?
She winked at me. My mission was to go to one of the weekend parties, find Melissa, and see what she knew about Nick's murder. I used Lucas's clothing and his Porsche, which was parked in a paid parking lot 2 blocks from home. I snuck out of the house through the basement window and easily avoided the reporters. At the party, I quickly scanned the crowd for Melissa. When I found her, I didn't go to her. It wasn't long before she approached me. We chatted for a few minutes and she gave me her number. I told her that I needed to leave and I made sure she walked me out to the Porsche. I smiled and I told her that I would give her a call and drove off.
So, how did it go?
Tammy asked excitedly as she burst into my room as soon as I got home. She fell for it. She didn't realize it was me and she gave me her number.
Great. Let her squirm a bit. Give her a call in 3 days.
As much as I wanted to call Melissa and get this over and done with, I knew Tammy was right. On the 3rd day, I gave her a call from Tammy's phone and asked her to dinner. I took her to one of the finest restaurants in town. She took pictures of everything and posted it on her Insta story. After dinner, I took her to the Lady Young Road Lookout. Did you enjoy dinner? I smiled at her.
It was great. I can't wait to boast to Kelly Ann. Denny never takes her anywhere.
I heard someone mention Kai while at the party. Is he your boyfriend?
He's an ex and a murderer.
Melissa stiffened and turned up her nose. So should I be worried about him? I chuckled. I took Melissa's hand and gently caressed it with my thumb.
No, he's harmless and a chump.
So do you think he did it?
Of course not.
She threw her hand over her mouth.
Dad is going to kill me. Our family lawyer advised me not to speak to anyone about what happened. Please don't tell anyone.
I won't. I changed the subject, but not before Melissa told me that she was at the college the night Nick died. After 30 minutes, I dropped Melissa home and returned home. I told Tammy and Lucas what Melissa told me.
That means she knows more than she's telling Lucas. It's time to implement phase 2.
Lucas smiled. He got his laptop and I watched his hands quickly type over the keys. After about 15 minutes, he handed the laptop over to Tammy and I looked over her shoulder. Lucas created an article stating that Melissa knew who the killer was and she was there at the college the night Nick died. It also stated that she knew Kai Morris was innocent. By the next day, the reporters were camped out by Melissa's house and my family and I breathed a sigh of relief. In a brief news announcement, Mr. Brown, Melissa's father, told the reporters that they had nothing to hide and if they wanted any information on Nick's death, they would have to contact their lawyer. Mr. Brown then slammed the door in the reporter's face.
Okay, now it's my turn to go undercover.
Tammy said as she pulled out her mask. Over the next few days, Tammy infiltrated Melissa's circle by disguising herself as another student. Kelly Ann told Tammy that Melissa was seeing someone else from the team, but she was hush-hush about it, and that's why she was at the college the night of the party. As soon as Tammy relayed that information to Lucas and I, Lucas wrote another article stating that Melissa was dating someone else from the team, and maybe she and her secret lover murdered Nick, or at least knew who did it.
Now that enough heat is on Melissa and the team, it's time for the final phase.
Lucas smiled as he pulled out her mask. Lucas arrived at the college the next day and watched as the team practiced for the big championship game. After the game, he walked into the locker room and introduced himself as a reporter to Coach. Lucas told the coach that he wanted to do a story on the team that would highlight how great the team is and remove some of the stigma with what's going on. Before Lucas started his questioning, Coach gathered the team together. After asking the usual questions like how the season was and the strategies used by the team to win games, Lucas changed the direction of the conversation.
So,
Lucas said as he looked around the room.
I wasn't going to say this, but I know that you guys want justice for Nick. Before coming here today, I did an exclusive report with Melissa Brown. I believe you guys know her since most of you dated her. Kai Morris is no longer a suspect in the eyes of the police.
The team cheered as Lucas continued.
I will be putting a story from Melissa in tomorrow's paper. I just wanted to thank you for your time.
Coach and the team thanked Lucas as they shook his hand. As he walked to his car, Lucas said,
Did you guys get all that?
Yes, we did. Loud and clear.
Tammy said through her headpiece. Tammy and I were parked down the street from the college. Lucas had a microphone and a camera on the pen that was in his pocket.
Okay, I'm heading home.
Lucas' microphone went dead.
Lucas? Lucas?
Tammy's voice was filled with fear. I started the engine and sped into the college's parking lot. Much to Tammy's and my surprise, there were 2 police officers taking Coach Dellison away, and another was talking with Lucas, who was standing next to someone they didn't know. Tammy and I ran towards them. Tammy threw her arms around Lucas.
What happened?
While I was walking to the car, Coach Dellison hit me with a bat and knocked me to the ground. If it wasn't for Jake here, I'm not sure I would have been here to tell the tale. He's a reporter.
Tammy and I looked at Jake, who extended his hand to us, and we shook it. Jake told Tammy and I that he was sitting in his car when he saw me leave the house through the basement window. Then, when all the reporters left to go to Melissa's, he decided to stay and keep tabs on us.
I knew something was going to go down today, so I convinced a few of my friends from the force to come with me. I'm grateful that you did.
Lucas said.
I got everything on tape.
Jake patted his camera. But why did Coach hit you? What was his role in all of this?
Get this!
Lucas' eyes lit up.
Coach Dellison was the mystery teammate that Melissa was dating.
Ew.
Tammy gagged.
How desperate is she? Isn't he like 50?
But how did Nick end up in the locker? I asked, confused.
Well,
Lucas said.
Nick caught Dellison and Melissa making out and Nick threatened to tell. Coach hit Nick, who then fell back, hit his head and never woke up. They just shoved him into the locker and left. He confessed everything.
I thanked Tammy, Lucas, and Jake for helping me clear my name. Melissa and Coach Dellison were charged with manslaughter and each got 10 years in prison. As for me, I dropped out of physical college and finished my degree online. I decided that I didn't want to play professional football anymore. Who I was as a college athlete made my story spread like wildfire. And if that was a glimpse of what was to come in my professional career, I didn't want it. After college, I moved away and brought my parents to visit me from time to time. I never went back to my hometown since, in my opinion, some things are better left in the past.